Well, welcome back. It's Friday, April 24th, and I am here with Jody Laking, who is been on the podcast before, has been on the podcast before, and I'm very excited. We always nerd out on business stuff, so it's always a pleasure to chat with her. Uh, the interesting thing, the reason why I'm having Jody on again is because she's done a pivot with her business, which happens when when you're an entrepreneur. Sometimes you need to pivot and make changes. And so, Jody, tell us where you were from before and where you are now with your pivot.
Thank you, Alex, for having me on again. Hello, everyone. So I started my business, Work Smart Canada, in 2014. I actually participated in this really cool program where the provincial government was giving people the opportunity who were on EI to start a business. And it didn't matter how much money you made, it wouldn't impact your EI. So I'm like, okay, I got laid off from my last job. I'm going to go do this. And I entered into the training and curriculum development field because that's what I knew.
Yeah.
And um, after about a year into doing that, I realized that the coaching, mentoring, and consultation industry to help small business owners, help people start businesses, grow businesses, and just provide that ongoing support was really lacking within the Brantford, GTHA, Hamilton, Toronto regions. There are some phenomenal resources in 2014 and still are today to help people start businesses, but there wasn't the accountability measures. There wasn't the support measures. And so I pivoted my business first in 2015, 2016 to start focusing on doing business coaching. I had been an entrepreneur since I was in high school. I'm a huge advocate of self-employment because it provides you a lifestyle that a 9-to-5 job just can't.
Yeah.
And I decided that I was going to go all in the business coaching and consultation world. I had a business degree. I had been working with entrepreneurs for years. I was an entrepreneur. I knew what they needed. Let's do this. So for the last 11 years, I've been doing just that. I've been helping people start businesses, grow businesses, scale businesses, expand their business, close their business, sell their business. And I have loved working with so many phenomenal local business owners and global business owners.
Mm.
And what I've noticed is just like humans, we all go through different shifts. We go through different transitions in our life, and our business goes through different transitions too, because the human behind the business goes through transitions. And I started really noticing some very specific themes happening during COVID, during the pandemic. But I also started paying attention to the fact that every single client that I really worked with, most of them had a major life disruptor happen while we were working together. And that could include a positive like getting married or moving or buying your first house. But it also included people who unfortunately suffered a miscarriage or another type of loss. Their partner lost their job and they felt that additional pressure being now the breadwinner per se of the family. So every single human that I worked with experienced human things while we were working to build and grow their business. And then I started going through a lot of life disruptors myself starting in 2019. And I realized that there's nobody there to support you during these disruptions. And entrepreneurs, we're built different. We're like, it's fine. We're fine. We're just going to put our heads down like ostriches in the sand and we're going to get through this. Our business becomes a distraction and we just figure it out because we're just innate problem solvers.
Yeah.
But then the burnout rate started to significantly increase for humans across the board, but especially for entrepreneurs over the last couple of years. So I started surveying my clients. I started asking them more questions about succession planning and what their future plans look like. And I started asking questions about them taking vacations. And is that part of their goal setting? And if they're sick, how does that business look? And if they needed to actually step away and rest because they were spiraling into this burnout phase,
Yeah.
what they were doing about it. And they weren't
Mm.
doing anything about it because the mental load on entrepreneurs is very heavy. We joke about all the hats we have to wear, But then I started paying attention to not just those hats, but the other hats.
Mm.
So now you have, say, a negative life disruptor happen to you, and your capacity is depleted automatically by 40% because your life is in this major shift. And it's a very heavy season, such as a separation or grief due to a loss, or a health change. Health changes are very prominent now that, especially I'm in my 40s, I'm witnessing that a lot more. And people just don't know what to do. They just think they have to wear more hats and figure it out. And I started doing a lot of research over the last year, and I realized that nobody has ever taught us, and nobody still teaches us how to run a business when our life is falling apart.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
no courses, there's no coaches, there's no framework.
No.
We just exist and we have to figure it out alone. So, after experiencing again some of my own personal life quakes, I loved reading that term in one of the articles. I realized that there's this gap, there's this seat at the table that nobody is toyed with the idea of pivoting and wanting to specifically work with individuals who are in a temporary phase of disruption and helping them keep their business alive and helping them just survive this crazy, crazy, chaotic season.
Yeah.
And after working through my own capability and ability to now work with individuals, managing a lot of additional heaviness and weight, I said to myself, there's nobody better to help manage the human and the business because I get both. I've experienced the crazy human. I've been the entrepreneur wearing all the extra hats, and I know how much our business owners need support. Um, so that's my pivot. I've now actually, I'm starting to tell people I'm officially hanging up my business coaching hat after 12 years.
Yep.
My experience hasn't changed. My skills haven't changed. My desire to work with people to start and grow businesses hasn't changed, but there is a plethora of beautiful and wonderful resources in our own community that I can refer to, but there's not as many resources to help business owners in this capacity, helping them with triaging and survival and support in this phase. Because my mantra has been, I want to help entrepreneurs stay entrepreneurs, and this is where I'm at today. So that's my long answer for you today.
Yeah. No, but it's important. It, you touched on so many different things there. There is the one thing that is it gets spoken about, but maybe not a lot, is just how lonely it is being an entrepreneur
Hmm.
and how challenging it can be. And when you speak, you speak of you know both sides. Let's to get a little bit more personal. You went through your
Hmm.
own separation while running a
Hmm.
business, so you
I
went
did.
through a very enormous life changing moment. What was the moment that you realized that no one was equipped to help you? That must have been a bit of what push it made business come is going through your own struggles.
Yeah. So my separation started in 19. So even before COVID was COVID.
Yeah.
And after I started to understand what was happening with my own personal situation with my ex, I still had to show up at family events and explain why he wasn't there. And I didn't have all the answers. It was a very, very overwhelming time. Everybody who goes through a separation or a relationship breakdown, you all have your own unique stories. But once it happens, you're just thrown into it. And for a lot of people, they don't have a choice. They are, whether you end the relationship or whether you're the person who's being told it's ending, you all of a sudden, your life automatically does a 180 and you have to pivot all of a sudden. So if your partner has now left the house or you have to leave the house, you now need to think about different living arrangements. If you're staying at the house, but you can't depend on that partner anymore and you have children, you now need to consider daycare. You now need to consider pets. chores, responsibilities,
Yeah.
security of your home, living alone. And that's just one area. You now have, well, what am I going to tell people? Do I tell people? Well, how am I going to communicate this? Because you now have all of these other emotions arising, and they could be anger or happiness and joy. Again, depends on your situation. But a separation is one of the biggest life disruptors because your life does an automatic 180, again, regardless of what side of it you're on,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden you have all these additional responsibilities. And now I had lawyer appointments between my client calls, and I was still working full time at that time as well. So I still had to show up Monday at 8:30 a.m. ready to go on and do my job and meet with people or run presentations. And we were still in person at the time. And I remember one time I was doing a business planning workshop, and you don't realize what your triggers are until you go through them. But my ex had sent me a text message that I decided to read a while on break. And I broke down in the bathroom at my job. And in 10 minutes, I had to go back into a group of 25 people and finish the presentation that I had started.
Right.
So it's a very overwhelming time for people. And but I'm very stubborn. So I'm like, it's fine. I'm fine. I can do this. I can do my job. I will deal with him. I will deal with whatever is coming. I will just deal with it. It's going to be fine. I don't want to tell people. I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to deal with their questions. So I kept a lot of it to myself, and I thought that I could handle it. I thought I could manage it. And then I realized I got to a point where it was nothing was moving forward. And I just kept feeling like I was experiencing Groundhog Day over and over and over again.
Right.
And I said to myself, I'm like, this isn't working. There has to be a better way. So at that time, I was working with my business coach, and she was sympathetic to what I was going through. And I asked for a pause in our coaching. And she actually came back to me and said, I think that's the worst thing for you. I think you need a distraction right now. But I wasn't worried about growing a business that I might lose as part of a divorce.
Yeah.
I was very distracted. I was very in a shock and awe.
Yeah.
Um, And then I started looking for therapists who specifically worked with entrepreneurs. Some exist, not a lot do. I started working with two different therapists, and they were both lovely and helpful in their own way, but neither of them understood the additional work, career, entrepreneurial pressure that goes along with going through a separation.
Hmm.
And then I had my accountant who was great. He'd known me since I was 16. He had also gone through a divorce, but he ended up talking to me more about his divorce than helping me figure out my numbers and financials. And those became real triggers for me.
Yeah. I bet.
Right. So, um, I got through it. I pulled out the resources and worked with the professionals that I could that were beneficial for me. And then I started to just experiment with different opportunities or connecting with other professionals in the healthcare, nutrition, or homeopathic or naturopathic area that I never would have before, to be honest. But those were all very enlightening, and they definitely helped me in their own way. Nobody that I met was able to say, Jody, I've got you.
Mm.
Jody, let's actually look at your business and look at what you actually need to do right now or this week and what you don't need to do, because your decision making is impacted. Your task management is impacted. You say yes to things you should not be saying yes to. You say no to things that you shouldn't have been making a decision about. Things are very erratic because of the additional mental load. So that was my first introduction to understanding that we have all these beautiful, wonderful resources in our community to help you in different ways, but we don't have somebody specifically for our business owners who are like, I've been where you are. Your story might be different, but I've
Mhm.
been where you are. I'm here to hold your hand and guide you. And some people will come to me and say, Jody, I need you to literally tell me what to do just to get through this. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the ability to make smart decisions, is a common comment.
Right.
And it's not the fact that I take a business over, it's I just literally help you keep it alive in that reduced capacity component while you also feel supported to know that your business is going to be okay and
Yeah.
you're going to be okay. And this is just a temporary phase, but it's really, really hard right now. And we'll get
Yeah.
through it together.
That's that's fantastic. Now, was this a gradual shift, or would you say there was like one defining moment that was like, this is what I'm going to do? I mean, from my perspective, it looked like it was like you had just made the decision and you're doing it. But
Mhm.
I mean, from what you've just been saying, it seemed a lot more gradual, a little more granular than that. How long did this trans has this transition taken? Obviously, you're still in it at
Mhm.
the very end of
Minute.
the transition, I would say. But
Yeah.
well, how long what was the gradual shift? How long has it taken, would you say, approximately?
So I probably the last 2 years, I've been really I've been looking at shifting. COVID changed how the business coaching industry and environment works for good and bad.
Yeah.
And I was again working with a lot of fantastic clients, but I was seeking more from these conversations because I have more to give. I've been doing this over 25 years. And although I loved helping them level up and grow their business and start their business, I really wanted to have, I'll say, more of an impact. Um, and I knew that it's funny, you kind of just say out loud, you're like, okay, like universe, you've been dealing me some like rough hands lately. Like, what's the purpose of this? And I read somewhere the line, we say, why is this happening to me?
Mhm.
And somebody proposed the idea of changing it and saying, why is this happening for me?
Mm.
And so since 2019, I've gone through a separation and divorce. I've sold my home. I've I've had to move. Um, my parents' health has significantly declined over those years. I decided to quit my job. This is actually 3 years this week since I quit my job. So I'm celebrating that, but I did that. I tried dating. I stopped dating. I tried dating again. I again stopped dating. I worked with a relationship coach because I found out that I was still trying to date like when I was last single, which was 25.
Mhm.
And a lot of things changed. My age and my expectations had changed.
Yep.
And then once I got clearer on who I wanted to be in a relationship, what I needed from my partner, I tried dating again and I met my current partner. And through that process, we decided to move in together. I moved cities.
Mhm.
I became an instant bonus mom to 4 girls. They live with us full time. I don't have any children of my own by choice. So this is a huge life transition as well. And then in December 2024, I lost my dad and it started the transition of grieving a lost parent who again had had a lot of physical and mental health issues, but now having to take over responsibilities caregiving for my mom alongside my brother.
Right.
So there just wasn't, I'll say, there wasn't a break. There was always something happening over the last 6 years. Again, good things, not so good things, but it still changed and it still created a lot of disruption for stability for me.
Yeah.
And then a year ago, I did this exercise. I was at a workshop and I did a journaling prompt and I wrote down working with entrepreneurs who were specifically going through or experiencing traumatic events. And I sat with it and I didn't know if I was emotionally ready to be able to also carry that weight, other people's weight
Mm.
for me going through everything that I was still going through. And I sat with it and I would go back to it and I would be like, I don't think I'm ready for this yet.
Mm.
And then I'd sit with it. And over the last year, I tried out other components of business coaching, niching in other different ways that I knew that there were gaps or areas. So I'd try them out, I'd have some good conversations, but they didn't necessarily sit. They didn't make me feel the way that I wanted to feel.
Yeah.
And then, so I'd pivot once, I tried that. And I'm like, okay, that's good. But this isn't it. And then I got closer. I tried to pivot again and worked with more the burnt out and overwhelmed entrepreneurs, helping them understand the importance of resetting. And I'm like, okay, we're closer. But that industry also is really, really, it's very busy. Um, excuse me. And I looked at this piece of paper again a couple months ago and I'm like, why are you fighting this?
Mhm.
Why are you fighting this? You've been dreaming about it. You've been thinking about it. It keeps popping up in your thoughts. It keeps popping up in your research. Like these little signs, I'll say, keep popping up.
Right.
So a couple months ago, I sat with it and I sat with it and I sat with it. And I acknowledged that I was ready to take that additional weight and help people. And I realized that that was the last key to the puzzle, that I was waiting to be balanced and have the capacity myself to be able to effectively work with individuals going through traumatic experiences without re-traumatizing myself.
Right.
So that it was a granular experience, but I'm also the type of person that once I made a decision over the weekend, my website was updated,
Yeah. No, I'm
right?
similar. Yeah.
So once I sat with it, like the process to get here was a year since I wrote it down in that journal. And but once I finally crossed that final threshold, and I'll say not close that final door, but accepted the fact that I was ready to know that I could help people without it hurting me.
Mhm.
That was what was the last piece. And once I felt secure and safe in that understanding, the switch just became very enlightening. It was just like, okay, you're done, you're ready,
Yeah.
let's people need this, you're on so many entrepreneurs are going through these life changes, and I want to be there too. I want to make it so they don't lose their businesses just because something happens in their life.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at today.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's very interesting because I do find that over the years for myself, I look at how to improve myself
Mhm,
to better represent. And you need to do that work and
mhm,
did that work. And when you do it, it does become kind of a light bulb moment. And then all of a
mhm.
sudden you are aware of it.
Yeah.
You call yourself a business triage advisor and not
Mhm.
a coach. Um,
Correct.
what's the distinction? Why does that matter to you?
Because so when I was doing the research and I was explaining to like AI and I was explaining to my friends or my partner kind of like what I was hoping to do, my one friend who's actually a nurse says to me, she's like, that sounds like what happens when somebody comes into an ER. We kind of just look at like what's on fire, what's bleeding the most. And I'm like, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And she's like, and then we take you through a process and we assess you and we figure out. So I'm like, keep talking, keep walking me. Like I've been to the ER multiple times. I'm like, but like, explain to me your process.
Yeah.
And I realized that for business coaching, it's usually a long-term commitment that you make with your coach, especially when you find a good one. And again, I've been blessed to have some amazing clients that I've been working with for over 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, but I realized that the triage word is exactly what people just need to do and understand it's temporary. So that most people who have any experience going to an emergency room, they understand there's a triage because that's what it's labeled in
Yeah.
the ER department.
Right.
And they're like, okay, I've got to go through this process. I've got to tell them what's going on. They're going to tell me what's wrong with me, what to do next, how to get better. I'm going to leave the hospital.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what I want to do. I want you to come in and tell me what's on fire. What garbage can is on fire right now? What parts of your business are bleeding that you are just too overwhelmed or don't have the capacity to manage? And I'm going to come in and I'm going to help you understand how to stop that bleeding, how to put out that fire, and help you understand your next steps to move beyond this phase so you don't just constantly feel like you're living in a dumpster fire. And just providing that ongoing support. But what's different now is I'm just a temporary piece of this puzzle. I am that person when we go through these programs or the system together. I need people to know that I'm your temporary support. And when you don't need me anymore, that means that you've also turned a corner. And that's a shift that I need them to see the future for. Because I can't guarantee how long you're going to grieve with a loss or even loss of a partner during a separation. I don't know how long your divorce proceedings are going to go. I don't know how the personal side is going to be, but I can guarantee you that within a very specific period of time, we are going to stabilize your business and we are going to stabilize you as the human behind it to have consistency and predictability to know how you need to run your business in this temporary phase of life, in this heavy season, because it will not always be like this.
Yeah. No, I love that it's about, taking care of the human
Mhm.
and as well as the business, because you're right, coaching does have this very long-term commitment kind of ideology, or thought process. And so it's interesting that you kind of fire yourself. Your goal
Yeah.
is to make and the reason why I just find that interesting is because that's always how I've, approached guitar lessons. Not the
Mhm.
same, but almost the same in the sense that I want that person to become their own teacher.
Yep,
I wanna put myself out of business for that person.
that's
And
right.
and I think it is a much more I think it just seems more holistic because it's not about a short term or long, never ending term. There's
Exactly.
goals that need to be, you need to get rid of me. That should be
That's
your
right.
goal. And that's very,
Exactly.
but ironic. Yeah. I love
Yeah,
it. Now part of this, you also have a steady framework.
I do.
In that steady framework, you have a not to do list, which
Yes.
every entrepreneur is cringing hearing just
I,
say that,
yeah.
myself included.
Yes.
And so, what is it that, why is letting go a strategy?
So before I answer that question, I'm going to go back to the study framework for just a second.
Sure.
So when I was looking at all of my life lessons, business lessons, especially during the traumatic times, I wrote them all down and then I put them into like a abbreviation or acronym divider and like or figure outer. And it came back with a lot of strategic terms. And I found that steady is the goal, right? You feel chaos right now. The goal is to feel steady, be steady, your business to be steady, you to be a steady business owner. So I loved that.
Yeah.
And then as I was working through what the abbreviation stood for,
Mhm.
I realized that entrepreneurs already put too many things on their plate. We already put, like, we have three to do lists on top of the main to do list. We have a daily to do list, an hourly to do list, a weekly to do list, a monthly to do list. We already don't know how to manage our to do list properly.
Yeah.
But now, when you're going through a life quake or a life disruption, such as a separation, you have a bigger to do list and they're combined. You don't have separate personal and business to do lists. They're all on one list and it gets really, really crazy. So, what I help teach entrepreneurs how to do is understand the difference between something that's urgent and important first.
Yeah.
And then I help you understand that you might be adding things to your to do list that are not helping you. And if you can learn what tasks, one, don't belong to you that you've put on your to do list that actually aren't yours to carry, one, let those go or delegate them back to the person they belong to. Two, just because you have a problem that maybe impacts multiple people, it does not mean that all of their problems are now yours. So we need to take those additional tasks off that you are creating tasks to cover for. You are
Mhm.
creating tasks that you have to be the person to call the lawyer. You're the person who has to call a realtor. You're the person who has to be the primary point person for your kid's school. You do not have to do all of those things. You can choose to, but you do not have to be that person. So learning about what things we can take off, like projects. If this project is something you want to do this year, it does not need to be on your April to do list during a divorce,
Right.
right? So that's why it's a strategy. It's about finding balance. I know it's this like trigger word balance, like we're all constantly seeking it, but it's about finding balance between reality and your capacity. So that your capacity is something that I really, really teach all entrepreneurs, but especially people who are going through heavy seasons because it's automatically depleted. You are depleted at your core, and I need you to be okay, like not okay with it, but I need you to recognize that and understand that we can still run your business without it depleting you more. And part of doing that is taking things off your to do list that don't belong there, not at least right now.
Yeah. No, I know. I do have a lot of resentment towards some people who overuse words, but balance is important. Like you do need to strive for balance because
Mhm,
as entrepreneurs, I am very guilty of chasing this shiny new object,
mhm,
and that in itself, my wife will tell you, it in itself creates problems. So the
mhm,
balance is very important. Um, but something that you work with a lot of solopreneurs and
mhm.
people who are the business essentially, or the
Yep,
face of the business. How does that change the stakes when life falls apart for them? I mean, the obvious answer is they can't leave their work at work,
yep,
right? They
yeah.
but what are some other nuance that you've noticed that stakes changing for the ones who own their own business?
I feel like one, when you're going through, say, a separation or divorce, now that business that you have worked so hard to build and you're the face of now becomes an asset in a divorce proceeding. And that is personally and professionally jarring for a lot of business owners because even though your spouse at the time was supportive of you starting your business, running your business, it was part of the lifestyle that you created together. Now it's just numbers on a piece of paper
Mhm.
and it's not feeling supported the same way that it was before. And you've lost your support system. And now that support system is, I'll say, going after your business. And that's very it impacts solopreneurs characters a lot. They feel very um I don't know the word I'm looking for, but they feel attacked in a multitude of different ways.
Yep.
And it's a struggle for them to understand how to keep going and wanting to grow their business and make money and build revenue and bring awareness when they know that on paper, next month, they might have to sell their business or close their business or shift their business in a way to accommodate a legal proceeding.
Right.
So it's very emotionally draining for solopreneurs, especially when it is just them, to still have to show up for that client meeting being like, hey, work with me, but I don't know if I'll see you next month or not. Right.
Yeah.
Solopreneurs also do not have the ability to delegate. They cannot call in sick. They can't delegate to or a team member or call their office manager and say they're going to be working from home. But that doesn't mean solopreneurs cannot still adjust how they run their business during this temporary phase. And that's again something very innately that we work on is understanding your operational changes.
Mm,
Solopreneurs stop wanting to, if they're the face of their business, they stop wanting to show up on camera for their social media.
yep.
They feel reluctance to go to trade shows where they have to be present in person
Right.
because what will happen is you get the infamous, hey, it's been so long since I've seen you. How are you?
Yeah.
And they just don't know if they can handle that or not, or how they'll be triggered. And so a lot of solopreneurs want and need to be able to pull back. And again, that's part of this study framework. It's part of that not to-do list. It's part of simplifying processes. It's part of figuring out what's actually urgent and important for you to do for your business versus not.
Yeah.
So it's helping them protect themselves during this time until they have turned a corner and um are ready to be present in their business again in a way that they don't have the capacity to do it right now.
Yeah. I mean, but how do you get them to ask for help? Because, us entrepreneurs, we are, I mean, good or bad, we're very proud, we're
Mhm.
stubborn.
Yep.
We want to show that we can keep it all together.
Mhm.
How have you gotten clients to say, "Hey, this has gone too far and I need your help."
So first, you were absolutely right. I did the exact same thing. I did not ask for help. I hid. I kept things very basic, very natural. I pretended. I masked a lot, a
Yeah,
lot, a lot, a lot.
been there too. Yeah.
And I am not going to say that that is not a worthy way to get through a messy situation. You do what you have the resources to do, and if that's the solution you have, then that's the solution you have. But part of the reason people, humans, don't want to reach out and ask for help is because it's taboo.
Hmm.
There's sometimes shame or guilt or anger or frustration that, and sometimes we do not want to hear other people's opinions about our personal lives
Yep.
or our business lives. So why would we tell somebody else, especially a stranger? But the reality is that we need to have these conversations more. You
Yeah.
I am not the first person to go through a separation or a divorce. I'm not the first person to lose her dad. I'm not the first person to be a caregiver to a parent. I'm not the first bonus mom.
Mhm.
My story belongs to me and is crazy in my own way, but I am not the first for any of these. And if we can start having more awkward, uncomfortable conversations to start making these um, just uh, help people understand these are just chapters of your story. They're not defining you, even when you're in it at the moment.
Right.
But if we can just get individuals and humans and people to understand that you are not meant to do this alone. Entrepreneurship, I have been yelling it from the rooftops. You are not meant to do this alone for decades.
Yep.
But when you are a business owner going through a major heavy season, a major life disruptor, and you have so much more on your plate, I want people to stop assuming that they just have to figure it out on their own. I want you to start feeling more comfortable telling your story. I want people to know that this is happening. Yes, we acknowledge it, but again, this is temporary. We need to take a deep breath. We need to acknowledge the crazy and the chaos. It sucks, and I'm sorry, but we have a next step. And what
Mhm.
do you want that next step to be? And it's not about goal setting and it's not about growth strategy development and it's not about revenue generation. It is literally about survival to stability at this moment in time. And now telling people there's somebody here who gets it, who wants to help you, genuinely wants to help you get through this phase. I do not want you to be another statistic where you have to close your business because of a divorce or because you just don't have the capacity to manage it and you burn yourself out so badly. You're not failing. You're not weak. You literally, your life did a 180. And now we just need to take a minute to reset
Yeah.
and get through it.
But the bonus is that you do have the tools to help them with those
Yeah.
questions. So it's nice that you can massage that through the difficult time, having your own experience and also the knowledge to say,
Mhm.
okay, I think you're ready to take this next step with your business. You can see that from the outside perspective. It's
Yeah.
really challenging being a business owner and going through difficult times because you just have to push through.
You
And
do.
I've had to go up on stage when behind the curtain,
Mhm.
figuratively, things were falling apart. And I have to go and do a recital or something, and it's not easy. And so it was interesting when you said that people will stop going on camera, people will stop
Mhm.
showing up to those things. Those are very nuanced
Mhm.
moments that you feel small in them
You
as
do.
a business owner, and what you start to question what's wrong with you. So
Right.
I you know I think that this is, yeah, just incredible service to give them. Now, how can you help them? These problems are overwhelming and huge for the
Mhm.
business owners.
Yep.
What are some tools that you give them? Like, do you suggest things that AI that could help them so much with taking offloading some things? Are you do are some of these your business owners, do they have others? Do you encourage others to find help and not just you? What are some other
Oh,
tools
yeah.
that you give them?
So I'll address both of the questions. I'll do the resources first, and then I'll talk about the AI. So
Yeah,
one, I am not the end all be all. I am not a therapist. I'm not a lawyer. And I'm not an accountant.
yeah,
I have been it. If you ask me questions and I have information for you, I will share it to help you get through these specific processes. But I will also refer you to a phenomenal network of referrals that I have and professionals I have. But I am one piece. You
Mhm.
still need a therapist, you still need a lawyer, you still need your family and your friends, you still need all these people. But I'm the person that it's okay to tell me that you need to cancel this appointment because you don't think you can do it, and then ask me how to do it, and I will help you figure out how to do it.
Mm.
I'm the person that I am not going to judge you regardless of whether you haven't changed out of your pajamas in 3 days. If that's the way you are surviving right now, then that is the way you are surviving right now. But I am the person who's going to say, "Okay, do you have a good hour today? What's your capacity level at? Where can we find that hour? And what do you think we can accomplish in that hour?" Because as entrepreneurs, we're so ambitious and we have so much drive that if we don't do anything, we just stop doing things, it directly impacts us on a personal and mental health level.
Yeah.
So it's about customizing this process for every single person and creating that initial trust with me so that you can say, "Jody, I'm having a bad day. I was supposed to have 3 meetings. I am supposed to do A, B, and C. Help me understand what I can and cannot do without feeling guilty, without feeling shame, without just being okay with saying, I cannot do this today. Help me figure this out. And I will figure this out." So some of the resources that I provide, one is I provide everybody that I work with, we create custom scripts. So if you need to reschedule, I've already created a script for you, written in your language based on how you've read them, you know they fit. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, regarding the AI component, the AI sometimes comes in for the script writing, but it also comes in with the automation side. So we set up, if you don't already have a program like Calendly or something set up, we adjust how people can book appointments with you. We adjust how people can communicate with you. And that might mean we turn off some of our technology.
Yep.
I also help individuals set boundaries. We start with one, but we actually practice implementing those boundaries.
Yeah.
And that might mean the fact that you turn your phone on to vibrate or silent after 6 p.m., or you don't answer emails. It might mean that you have a boundary with yourself that you don't take on a new project for 30 days.
Mhm.
We create boundaries so that you can get through this season
Yep.
without, again, causing more harm to yourself. The additional AI that comes into play, excuse me, some of my clients actually do have AI chatbots. Um, so we've adjusted some of their communication, being like, I would like to meet with, Holly on Friday. And the chatbot will say, unfortunately, Holly's calendar is full at this time, but she does have availability Tuesday and Wednesday at these times. So it'll keep the business moving, which is
Yep.
very valuable.
Yep.
But Holly doesn't need to talk to anybody,
Yep. Yep.
right? So it allows her to still look like she's present, but she doesn't actually have to be present. So different AI components help to keep the website moving, help keep the calendar moving. And then, for example, I have another client that basically has an AI integrator into her email program that based on the day, she tells the prompt how she's feeling or how she's doing that day. And that prompt will then take over how to respond to 3 specific types of emails that will come in. So to defer for 2 weeks, to defer
Yep.
to next week, or to defer 48 hours.
Yeah.
So she felt we've gone through a lot of guilt with that setup. So what we do is trial things because they have to prove their assumptions are right, and I have to prove that my assumptions are right. So we trial things out.
Yep.
Everything goes perfectly fine because, again, things are customized for people.
Yep.
And then the other resources is just helping them understand that they can simplify their operations and processes right now.
Yep.
We don't need to do, and then we'll reassess once those two are done. So it's about making sure that their capacity as it is properly understood, and they plan their days around the capacity they have for that we're doing this adjustment right now because, again, it's minor usually, it's short term, and you can always adjust it again in the future as your capacity changes.
Yeah, nice. I know that when I Brene Brown says that about scheduling white space for like you make sure that you set time for yourself. I'm sure that that's something that you also do for your clients as well, although you're frozen, so maybe you don't.
Sorry, there was a glitch in our technology, so
Uh,
I just caught the end of that. But yeah, so for white space. So
yep.
one of the things that we do, one of the first things we do in our first meetings is we actually look at their calendar and look at how I gain a very good understanding of how their business works, what their pride is, what they're known for, so that we don't might be being filled in right now. Again, lawyers meetings, therapist meetings, etc. But we find usually a consistent day and time that we can easily block that doesn't impact them. It doesn't impact family. It doesn't impact business. And we block it off and we strategically come up with a reason of what they do during that rest space. And most of the time, it's encouraging that they are physically active. They go for a walk, they go for a hike, they go and leave their home, leave their office, because physical movement has a huge impact on mental health. And it's also a really good positive distraction as well. So we fill the space, but we have an intention behind it.
Yeah, smart. It cut out there, but I think we got the important messages from
Okay,
that.
great.
Okay, so final question is then someone's gone through it. What does steady look like on the other? Are people capable of doing as they go through it?
Steady means that you actually feel steady. You do not feel steady. Steady is not a word that you use at the beginning or while you're in the middle of a big life disruption. Steady means that you can breathe.
Mm,
Steady means that you can rely on your systems. Steady means that you can rely on yourself, your decision making, your ability to prioritize. Steady means that you are comfortable with the new processes, the new systems that you've put into place to help get your business from a survival mode to a steady mode. And you're genuinely feeling a little bit more balanced, a little bit more steady, and you don't feel like things are out of control anymore. You're not sitting there going, I can't do things like this anymore. There's got to be a better way. I need help. You're not feeling like that anymore. You're feeling like not everything's not perfect, but I feel a lot
yeah,
better with how things are going. I feel good with how my business is still moving forward. It is still active. It is still alive. I am not worried about losing my business anymore. That's kind of a very keyword heavy definition of what steady means.
nice. That's awesome. Well, Jody, this has been very enlightening. I think it's an incredible business. I love this pivot idea. I think it's very specific and um, I mean, I hope I don't have to use your service, but at the same time, I'm glad that I know that you're available because I think you tap into something that is very very important and I think you have found something that's kind of missing in this market. So thank you for that and thank you for coming on and yeah, we'll talk soon and we'll do a round.
That's right. Alex, thank you so very much for having me on the Local Grit podcast. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.